First, it was a passenger on SIA, Singapore Airlines, who abused a cabin crew on a flight from Bangkok. We saw it in a viral video. He was seen being disruptive during the meal service, and he was heard using foul language on a crew member. Then, on a connecting flight, the same passenger again became aggressive and struck a cabin crew member. And just a week later, in a separate case, a group of passengers on Scoot caused a landing delay for refusing to fasten their seatbelts.
What can airlines legally do in such a scenario, and can fellow passengers step in to correct certain behaviors? We're joined by aviation analyst Dr. Germa Goyadi. He's the CEO of 14-Day Pilots Flight Academy and CEO of Astronacci International, and he's speaking from Jakarta. Now, Dr. Germa, picture this, okay? You're in a flight from, let's say, from Jakarta to Singapore. Yep. 9 times out of 10, the flight goes okay, but there's just that off chance that a fellow passenger has got perhaps a drink too many or has a bad day and creates a scene. Now, as a fellow passenger on the same flight as these troublemakers, what can they do?
Yeah, as we know that this problem has been a while. In the 2021 in the United States, there's a 5,981 unruly passenger reports. I mean, this could be caused by fear of flying, stress, delays, personal problems, alcohol, drugs, and others. So I guess this is like a completely violation of the law, whether it's the ICAO, because we have International Civil Aviation Organization protocol based on the Montreal Protocol 2014. That's about the legal framework to deal with the unruly passengers. And also for each country, they have like civil aviation safety regulation. In this case, if you are talking about the United States, we got a federal aviation regulation. And Singapore, you guys have your own regulation. So it's all violation to the law, actually.
What about taping them, Dr. Gemma? Should we do that? And then a lot of people do that and it just goes viral.
Okay, taping them in the airplane, I think that's a lucky day for the unruly passengers, because if you're having that situation, if you are the unruly passenger in the United States, the FAA is already proposed for at least $37,000 fines per violations to that passengers. And in 2021, the FAA proposed for $5 million fines against the whole unruly passengers, and they can go to the jail because that's completely crime. I mean, if the airline just decide to tape them in the airplane and then finally can peacefully solve the problems, that's a good day for that unruly passengers. But legally, the airline can bring them to the police or even to the federal government to give them the penalty. Especially in the United States, this is like a federal against a federal law.
That's right.
So yeah, this is not like a simple case that you can get away from.
That's right, because some airlines do tape them, but I was talking about videotaping them, the ordinary passenger, videotaping them using their smartphones. Should we do that or just let things be?
Yeah, I mean, you can control whatever people want to do. I mean, some people, they can sue the passenger who videotaping them. But anyway, since you make a trouble in this social media world, you can avoid this kind of situation. I mean, yeah, people can just record because you're behave dangerously. Then people wants everybody knows that, hey, there's a threat, something like that. So yeah, I don't think we can control this kind of situation.
Dr. Germa, why would such an incident happen? Why would we say that drunk behavior is perhaps a reason for unruliness?
Yeah, I see there's a statistic number on that, but I don't have the number right now. But the most probable cause is most of people, they're stressed. They have personal problems, fear of flying. And some of them, one of the biggest numbers also because of the alcohols. That's why the federal government also make a regulation, make a coordination with all the alcohol shops to like mitigate and qualify the passengers who wants to get a drink before flying. Even though in flight service, we normally over the alcohol as well, right? So the flight crew members, they normally also get trained to qualify whether the passengers could be given the alcohol or maybe this already enough for them. So yeah, we normally get a training on that. And most of the time, maybe it's because of the stress, I guess.
Dr. Germa, Mel mentioned this earlier, the case of the passengers not buckling up. What's the logic for buckling up in a plane? Because in a car, it makes sense. You're going through a forward motion. But in a plane, though, why?
they just don't know how much is danger if you're not buckling up in the airplane. There's a study on the 2001, 45.8% serious injury due to the turbulence, because we normally fly with the airline at 35,000 feet. There's a lot of clear air turbulence above 15,000 feet. And then that clear air turbulence can cause the fracture, the ankle fracture, neck breaker, and backbone break. So if they don't buckling up, if there is a turbulence, then they could have the severe injuries on their bones. That's really painful. So it's better to always buckle up. And there's a regulation about it in the Part 121 that's regulate the air transport category. 121.317 parentheses F is all about that when you on board the airplane, you need to fasten the seatbelt when the sign is lighted. So that's a regulation. I mean, that's a regulation, but for your good, I strongly suggest just put a seatbelt. It's you don't have any problem with that, right? Comparing to get a fracture on your neck.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
so painful.
As long as that belt is not too tight. And also this applies to trays as well.
Yeah,
Right, Doctor?
that's right.
Some people
Yeah.
refuse to put their trays up as the plane is landing or taking off. And that's part of the law too.
Yeah, because they never feel how pain this fracture in the neck.
Okay, so we don't want them to feel a pain in the neck. So just
Yeah.
buckle up before you do.
Correct.
What about an unruly passenger getting off the blacklist? Once they're blacklisted, is it forever?
I guess from some airline it's forever. Yeah. I mean, there's no way for the airlines to unlist you because they don't have a guarantee that you can I mean, you will repeat that things again, right? They don't know. So once you get a blacklist, that will be forever, I guess. Especially like SIA, when you get a blacklist from SIA, that's it.
In both cases, these passengers were escorted by airport police. Is there a chance that deportation can happen just because, decide to raise a scene?
Yeah, I'm not sure about it. It's depend on the immigration, but if the country is pretty nice enough, maybe they just gotta fine, like pay some dollars. I guess that's the best deal that they can have, but that they definitely need to pay something. I mean, deportations absolutely is worse than paying $10,000. If I become the unruly passenger, I will choose to pay 10 grand instead of get deportation and blacklist to enter Singapore.
And lastly, Dr. Gama, do you see unruly passengers becoming more common with the skies opening up? Or only because it's more common because people are taping unruly passengers more with their phones?
Yeah, I think there is a good point. If people do the taping, then people can learn. Don't be that kind of passengers. But for the next year or maybe 2 years, I think there will be more race on the unruly passengers, because this is like the new era after the pandemic. People travels, people want to express themselves, buying the ticket, and then they want to relieve the stresses. And then most of the time they become like anti-authority. They want to be themselves, and then they forgot that there's a rules in aviation. So I really recommend that just follow the rules, because aviation rules is made for your safety. It's not just to make your life harder, but to save your life.
That's right. And behave yourself because you're among other good people.
Yes, correct.
Dr. Gurma, thank you so much for being with us on Singapore Today. Dr. Gurma Goyardi, CEO, 14-day Pilot Flight Academy and CEO of Astronacci International, speaking from Jakarta.